Okay, so 3 times this side. Not 1 time. It's on.
Up the stairs. Okay. Look at him go.
You climb without your glasses. No. Let's go. You don't need your glasses. Fine.
Take it back. Take it back. Take it back. Take it back.
Take it back.
Action.
Take it back.
Action.
Take it back.
Action. Take it back. Take it back. Take it back.
To do it one more time. Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Remember, what we're doing tonight is a history. What we're saying today is we're going to take our country back. Yes. This is the man who's going to help us do that. Are you ready?
Yes.
Take it
back.
Take
it back.
Take it back.
Action.
Take it back.
Action.
Take it back.
Action.
You may sit down now. If you have a seat, sit down. If you don't have a seat, sit down. Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I told you before what we are doing here today, just in case, if you do not know why we're here, I'm going to explain again. We are doing here today a town hall meeting. A town hall meeting is where the politicians hear from the electorate. They hear from their own people, and they get to ask some questions, and they answer some questions. Now, many politicians don't want this kind of events, but this man, he wants it. You can decide to turn off your Twitter as a politician or have your interns answer your phone calls, but you cannot shy away from this kind of event. Now, before we even start, we're going to say the national anthem. Those of you who are Nigerians or friends of Nigerians, please stand up as the national anthem is rendered.
Nigeria's follow me to serve our Father with love and strength and faith. The labor of our heroes past shall never be in vain. To serve with heart and mind, only around freedom, freedom, peace and unity.
Good job. And you can sit down. Thank you. Now, I want to tell you, we are not here in the presence of nobody. We're in the presence of a man who is accomplished. Ladies and gentlemen, you have here seated somebody who has a bachelor's degree in geography and planning, who has a master's degree in public administration. Put your hands together for please. He's also a lecturer in 2 schools here in the United States of America. And ladies and gentlemen, we have the rare privilege to be in the presence of the next president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Woo! Now be careful, Chuck. It's a rare privilege. It's a rare privilege. Now, before we really get started, we're going to pray. It's a demand that we have in the house, and we have a man of God who is here. He's going to come here and open this session with a word of prayer. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for a man of God, Pastor Sam Adele. Please put your hands together.
Take it back. Action. Action.
Take it back.
Take it back.
Action.
Action.
Take it back.
I'm so happy to be called to come and pray here, and I'm so happy to meet this my brother. You see, and God, and before I pray, his story is just like Goliath and David. You understand?
Yes.
You know, a lot of people, when David went to the camp of Saul, even though his own brother said, "You this knucklehead, you are here. You're supposed to be staying with the cattle in the field. I know because you are arrogant, that's why." And these are the words that they have been talking to this man. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, he's young. What is he going to do? He's not going to be here." And that is the same word being said to David.
Yes.
Even though David was wearing the armor of Saul, and it was too heavy. You understand? He said, "Take it. I have the faith. I want to believe in you today." This David of our time.
Yes.
This is the David of our time. Let somebody give a clap offering to God. He has the heart of David. And that's what I saw in him. And I started following him. My brother Clement, he will call me and say, "No, let us keep praying." You understand? This is David of our time. You understand? I want you, if you believe the same belief that David had, and you have that belief, if you have that belief, shift that belief on this man, and you will see that God is going to use him. You see, when David entered that camp, everybody, it's been written out. Nobody wants him. Even though Saul was looking at him. If you see his age, he's not even up to a warrior. You understand? So because I know a lot of people are talking about his age, he doesn't have any of this. David doesn't go to, David has not been to war. All what he goes here to do is to serve food. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. And before you know what is going on, God used him to defeat. God will use you to defeat every camp. Amen. In the name of the Lord Jesus. Amen. Our Lord will thank you. We give you glory, we give you honor. You have risen another David to save your people. Every Philistine that has been destroying everything that Nigeria has been working for. Another David has come. And I know this David will defeat the Goliaths. Amen. All the Goliaths that are waiting for him. Father Lord, as you use David to defeat, to shut the mouth of Goliath, you will use Sowore to shut the mouth of all Nigerians that are ready to destroy that country in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. As you are with David, so shall you be with this man. Amen. So shall you be with him. Amen. Everybody that you are here, you will live to give a good testimony of account of Sowore. In the name of the Lord Jesus. Lord, I will cover him with the blood of Jesus. We say, as he's been moving, you are giving him the energy, the strength. You are the one that gives strength. You are the one that gives energy to be able to move from. I've been following him. There was a day he was in Israel and everything. Now he's in California. Father, Lord, I thank you for all the strength that you are giving him. Continue to give him the strength. Be with him. Guide him. Guide all his supporters. And all of us that we are here. Father, Lord, as we are fighting for that country, continue to help each and everybody that is here in the name of the Lord Jesus. Give them a good strength that they may work hard to support Sowore in the name of the Lord Jesus. Thank you, everlasting God. We pray for Nigeria. That Nigeria, we pray for everybody that are here. We pray for the youth of Nigeria. That the Lord will set this David to take them out of the bondage of all the Goliaths in Nigeria in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Thank you, everlasting God. We declare this place open in the name of the Father, in the name of the Son, and in the name of the Holy Spirit. Bless you.
Put your hands together for the Thank you. Thank you. If you're very observant, you will have noticed when the next president came in, he went around and shook everybody's hands. This is how you test humility. This is a man who is humble to the T. And ladies and gentlemen, the reason why I'm even part of this at all is it takes a lot for a man to go on social media and publish his bank account. No politician has ever done that. Even as we speak, I hope we don't have any ESS or whatever here. We don't know how much our president in America earns because we can see his cash returns. But this man went on social media to declare his assets and bank account. Ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at transparency, man. He's humble, he's transparent. Thank you. Now, I'm going to invite somebody here who's going to introduce the team, Take It Back team. You know, there's a Take It Back team. The slogan is SEC, Take It Back. SEC, Take It Back. ASC, Take It Back. ASC, Take It Back. The mistake was from my head. It is ASC, Take It Back. ASC, Take It Back. Just so you know, ASC means African Action Congress. Again, ASC, take it back, take it back, action, take it back, action. So Mr. Valentine will come now and introduce the team, Take It Back. Mr. Valentine, please put your hands up.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I'm not going to take much of your time. And in introducing our so-called team members, I would just love for everyone to just step a little bit forward and raise your hands, and we will just acknowledge what they've been doing. It's a long evening event, so we are not going to take too much time with them. So I have John Clement, who is our leader. I have, we call him Casey Chiemele as our coordinator as well. We have Ezenwa.
Can you guys come? Let's see. Are you hiding? You have done too much to hide.
So Chief Ezenwa, can you please raise your hand? This is Ezenwa. And Chief Larry as well. Nachi, right there as well. We have Sister Margaret. And we have other members that are not here, and we also have an anonymous member in our midst for a special reason. So we acknowledge his presence. And thank you for the wonderful opportunity as we stand here. I will not leave here without our slogan, even though we said it so much. I think that is what we stand for. So I say, ASC, take it back! ASC, take it back! You guys enough. ASC, take it back! Take it back! Action! That's it right there. Thank you.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, this what we're doing today didn't start today. It started a long time ago, 1633 in Massachusetts, as the record can show. So it's a long-standing event. This is a political movement where politicians come and they can hear from us. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you have this, you will see that I've run the program like the religion. So next I am going to invite here to the podium is the main man. The man that I spoke with on the phone, and I realized his passion for this. He has a great passion for this movement. And he's going to come here and make an opening. He's the speaker, so he's going to come here and say a little thing for us. Say something. He's the man behind the scene. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Josh Clem, please. Clem.
Take it back.
That's all we can do. AAC!
Take it back.
Take it back!
Action.
In honor of... Sorry, I've been a little emotional lately. And, AAC!
Take it back.
Take it back!
Action.
I don't know where to begin. But I should probably keep it short. You didn't come to watch my tears. Saved by the bell. It was about a few months ago that a woman I respect said to me that you probably wouldn't believe this. Someone I know, I was in Cuba, someone I trust, like you trust me with your life, is doing something extraordinary. She was the consulate of the Nigerian embassy. She said, this is probably what you've been looking for. I wasn't sure what she meant by that. But I'm certain now. When I got a chance to run with my brother here, he said something that got me as we were running, and before that, I'm okay. It was kind of like something Mandela said. He said, this is an ideal I'm willing to die for. But he said, if I die, my pain ends. But it was the way he said it that made me realize this is in fact the right man. All of these people sitting here haven't been given a dime to do this. In fact, they've spent their own money to do this. Long story short, I was certain that I was getting into a business or a thing, a movement that I believed in. But when I heard what he said, I said, okay, this is a cause to be done, that you can place your life in. And then when you see the people that are around him, you would understand why. You would understand his purpose. And you would understand probably why we have a small empty chairs. Because not everybody is going to come along for the truth. I believe it was one person that said it best, Winston Churchill. He said, truth is the most valuable thing in the world. It is so valuable that it is often guarded by bodyguards of lies. And when you get to the bottom of the truth of why he's sitting here, why he's been traveling tirelessly, why this man, I look at him, I'm like, he's falling asleep sometime and he's still going. And people like me around him, I'm like falling asleep. I thought I have endurance. I'm like, how the heck does he do it? Well, he didn't start today. He didn't start 6 months ago. He started, was it 29 years ago? Yes. There are people that know him better, and that's what I'm supposed to do. But I just wanted to do the saving grace if I could, in any way. I'm going to invite Dr. Joshua. I'm going to take his place. Dr. Joshua is the chief of staff. He's got many degrees that I can't go through right now. And he would do even better. Introducing the man he's been working with, he's known, he respects and loves. Dr. Joshua, please come up. Please give me a round.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much, John. That's very touching. I try to steer clear of emotion because when it starts for me, it does not stop. And he has done a wonderful job of talking about the kind of emotions that someone like Omoyele Sowore provokes. So I will try to focus a little bit more on why you should be as emotional as he is. When we were singing the national anthem, I sort of realized one of the few things, actually not few things, one of the many things that I have learned from Omoyele Sowore. I realized about 2 years ago that Nigeria was my fatherland, but it was not my motherland. Nigeria was my fatherland because it gave me identity. This black skin, this tough hair, this Sowore describes Nigerians as a force of nature, a typhoon. Yes, you can feel a Nigerian walk by. Just Hurricane Florence just passed by. You will know it's a Nigerian. Yes, Nigeria gives you that identity. There's this sometimes annoying confidence. There's the loud voice. There's where the voice comes from. There's the build of the jaw. There's the way they carry themselves. There's the way they relate in public. You think that every other person was a piece of stone. Yes, Nigeria gives you that kind of identity. I don't know whether it comes from the 198 million people that you have to struggle with to survive. But that's not what a motherland does. The motherland takes care of you, especially when you don't deserve it. So how many of us have seen a 6-month-old baby crying and its mother would just be like, oh, she needs to sleep. And then the next day at the same time, the baby is crying the same cry. What to you is the same cry, but the mother will say something different this time and say, she needs to eat. She knows by the whine of the cry, by the pitch of the cry, by the duration of the cry, the mother just knows. Now, a motherland takes care of you like that. It suckles you. It gives you an education you cannot afford. It gives you opportunities that it would otherwise give to nobody. Nigeria does not do that for us. You have to struggle for every single thing that you get. And it's when I figured that out, like 1 or 2 years ago, that I then realized why I should be with Omoyele Sowore. One is one of the... Hello? There we go. I'm sure I don't need to start all over again. My mother could hear my voice in Nigeria. Yes. Yes. Thank you very much. And so, this one too. Yeah. It's a little hot in here. In summary, I said Nigeria is a fatherland to many of us, but it hasn't been a motherland. It hasn't taken care of us. It hasn't pushed us. It hasn't propelled us. It hasn't catered for us. Not because it cannot. If Nigeria were fully desert, we would understand. If Nigeria were located at the bottom of the sea, we would understand. But Nigeria is located at one of the prime regions of the world. Many people would, many countries would like to have what Nigeria has. They don't, we do. But we don't feel it. There is an inequity, there is an inequality, there's something that makes any just man cry out. And like I said, it's why I realized why I needed to be with someone like Omoyele Sowore. Because he gets it. I don't know whether it is his years outside the country, but I would say no, because he's been fighting for this for years before he left the country. So I don't know whether it is his background, but I'd say no, because I know at least 90 to 100 million Nigerians come from the same poverty, the same background that he has experienced. So there's just something about him that is the right mix of acid and base, that is the right mix of lemon and honey, that is the right mix of chocolate and coffee. It gives you the elixir, yes, that you need to fix a country like Nigeria. So some have described it as a mix of competence, character, and capacity. And in the last 6 months of doing this with him, I have seen multiple and many demonstrations of these three things: competence, capacity, and character. So, I'm going to invite the man with the requisite competence, capacity, and character to make Nigeria a motherland. And not just a fatherland to Nigerians, but also a motherland to the world, because if Nigeria gets going, Africa gets going. And if Africa gets going, the black nation gets going. Please invite with me to the stage, Omoyele Sowore.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Los Angeles. Thank you to the organizers of tonight's event. Thank you, the people of Nigeria, living outside of Nigeria, for watching over Nigeria every hour, I mean the diaspora. Thank you to our people inside of Nigeria as we speak for their resilience, Let me apologize to everybody seated that we're starting this event very, very late. I am a stickler for time, and I'm always opposed to people who come late to events. As probably you've seen some of my videos, physically disrupting events where big men come showing up very late. It had nothing to do with me. I think it has some logistical issues to do with it. But regardless, I apologize to you. I want to thank you for sitting this out until we were able to start. You know, I listen to a lot of people speak about Nigeria, and each time you say something about Nigeria, I think of Nigeria in the way I have seen it. About 4 days ago, we had a different experience campaigning in Nigeria, because we campaigned inside and outside of Nigeria. We've done this for 7 months. After 6 months, we kind of transitioned from being a political movement to being a political party known as the African Action Congress. But when we started, nobody took us serious. They said, first and foremost, this is going to be an internet-based campaign. And we know Sowore is the king of social media. He has started his Facebook campaign, and it will end up maybe somewhere on Twitter. You know, as times went by, they saw that it was no longer based on the internet. They said, well, this is going to be based in Lagos, in the southwest, where they come from, because they saw me in Lagos. A few weeks later, we headed up north and met with the Emir of Kano, who was a former central bank governor, Lamido Sanusi. And when we came back, they said, well, maybe it was because the Emir used to be in the central bank and he benefited from Sahara reporters reporting, because when Sanusi was going to be removed by Jonathan for exposing the monumental corruption at the NNPC, that's the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, we stood by him to ensure that those reports got to all Nigerians. So we came back from there and went to Kaduna, where to the right of a town hall meeting like this sat Christians, and to the left sat Muslims, and had about 80% of people in attendance were women screaming inside Arewa House. They started to take notice of the movement. That movement has now traveled to 29 states in Nigeria. We've done over 70 events across the world, and we are still going strong. So, as it is with Nigeria, it started to get dangerous. Things started to get dangerous. And when things start to get dangerous in Nigeria, they're trying to do something sinister. So, but what I wanted to say about Nigeria is how much of Nigeria is an echo chamber. When I mean echo chamber, as huge, you know, you see, the spirits are moving because of the
No, is that man.
As huge as Nigeria is, of 198 million people, there's something frustrating about just people not being able to stand up at the same time to speak truth to power. And when somebody, one single person is out there saying, well, this is the truth, and we need to go in a different direction, our people sometimes can actually support what is wrong in the large numbers against what is right. So I don't want to mention any particular events, but it got really dangerous for us in Nigeria. Just in 2 hours, the conversation shifted from how to save Nigeria to how to kill Sowore. Yes, in Nigeria. And we got to a point where even some of our supporters got very worried overnight. Some couldn't sleep. You know, say, how do we make it out of even the hotel the next day? Because we were surrounded by, you know, the mob, practically speaking, physically out there saying, well, we have to cut off his head and send it to his father. And part of it also was driven by a mob. Some of them even intellectual mob who were providing the elixir for how to kill and deliver my head to my father. But we had a very, very important town hall meeting the next day in Badagry. And when we woke up, you know, our team members were wondering, you know, how do we get out to somewhere as fast? But why don't we just stay back and just let things cool down? And I said to them, we have to go. We have to be out there to do this for Nigerians. And if on our way back, something goes wrong, let it be. And that was what I was telling my brother, Clement, that sometimes, you know, maybe you have to choose between life and death so that you can end not only your own pain, but you can end the pain of the majority of people. And the reason I said that wasn't because I was trying to use cliches. I totally believed it, that if the next day, the day we're going to Badagry will be, probably is a good idea, because I needed the conversation in Nigeria to change completely. And I think it brings us back to the US We're here in Los Angeles today. Some events that had to do with Nigeria actually took place here in Los Angeles. There's a man known as Fela Anikula Kukuti. He was traveling in Los Angeles, actually looking for immigration papers to stay in the US, according to some of the urban legend. I don't know the whole truth. And he was trapped in the early riots, and he saw, how blacks rose up against an oppressive white majority system, and it turned this Los Angeles upside down. That was how he met a lady known as Sandra Isidore, who I met today. Before then, Fela had, according to Sandra, some kind of even colonial mentality, which is that he came from an elite family, he went to school, he was a rebel, no doubt, but he also wasn't really keen into the understanding of our own black oppressive system at home, but that's changed him. Other things that happened in the US has to do with Martin Luther King, who also had to make those kind of sacrifices. There are days that probably they shouldn't have gone out to fight, but they fought until somebody pointed a gun at him and killed him. But if they didn't make those sacrifices, we wouldn't be here today, even as blacks or immigrants, where they had to end their own physical pain so that our own pain could end. And I'm not saying this to wish you goodbye in any way. I'm just telling you that we need to make serious sacrifices for 198 million people in Nigeria. And because we stood our ground, we went to Badagry. And what we saw in Badagry, or heard, was the reason why we are also here today. It's that over 43 million blacks were sold into slavery from Badagry slave market alone. 43 million blacks over 400 years. Our brothers and sisters who were traditional rulers were conniving with white slave masters and traders. They were selling an average of 300 blacks a day. If you multiply that by 400 years, it came to 43 million people. The reason I'm not talking about, construction of roads in Nigeria, hospitals directly today, is not because I don't have a document to that effect, but it's also very important that we understand that it's a lot more deeper than just construction of roads and power. There needs to be a seismic change in the way we are having a conversation about Nigeria. Nigeria is deeply in trouble. Nigeria is ensnared in a state of destruction. The people who destroyed Nigeria have gotten to a point that they are so comfortable that nothing can change Nigeria. They don't even care anymore. And without understanding the level under which the country has been sunk into oblivion, we will not be able to have a solid conversation. What I mean is that even inside of you, something needs to change and shift about Nigeria for you to understand how far we need to go. And I'm saying that because, we might be looking forward to an election in Nigeria next year, but a revolution might actually happen. Because in Nigeria, something got to give. There are a lot of people who are enslaved in the country. And I think they are tired. They are tired and sick of being enslaved. They are tired and sick of being unemployed after they've graduated from the university for years. They are tired and sick of getting to our hospitals and they cannot find drugs. In fact, to the point that even when people die now in Nigeria, public hospitals have no equipment to even process the dead. They are tired and sick of driving on our highways. Not only do they go into their debts, but it's at this point even impossible for people who get into accidents to get help. Help that you take for granted. It would be that before people got to the scene of an accident in Nigeria and they tried to help people who were in accidents, but the milk of kindness has shifted so bad because of the destruction of the psyche of our people that when people get to the scene of accidents these days, they are looking on how to collect the cell phones of the victims of accidents or remove their wallets. You know, in some cases, if they find a person to resist, they might even kill him so that they can collect whatever is left on the scene of an accident. People are tired and sick of hunger. People are tired and sick of insecurity. And you talk about insecurity in Nigeria, it is no longer that if you got robbed in Nigeria and you shouted, people will help you. It is that if you got robbed and the armed robbers heard you cry, they'll come back and kill you because you cried in agony after you've been robbed. This is how bad things are at home. And you know, when I'm saying this, people might say, you know, why are you painting such a situation of gloom and doom for Nigeria? I'm not doing that. I'm saying this so that you can understand how much of the commitment is needed, the length and breadth and bandwidth of commitment we need from you to save our country, Nigeria. I left Nigeria in 1999, came to the US, and like most of you, I intended to spend 2 weeks. Like most of you. Yes, if I count all of you in the house, and we asked you how many days did you intend to spend? Some of you, maybe maximum 3 months, you know, and 3 months became 30 years for a lot of us. My 2 weeks became 19 years this year. By next year, it'll be 20 years. But I decided that it was time to start turning around and going back home. Because I understand one thing for sure about living abroad. There's a point to which you get to, it becomes also very tiring and sickly to be living elsewhere that is not your home country. And I know that a lot of you would love to have a country that you can return to. So that's why I'm standing in front of you today. That's the spiritual part of it. The philosophical part of it is that we can do something fundamental to change Nigeria. It's possible for Nigeria to change at this point. It is possible for things to turn around. Because the good news is that those who are tired and sick in the leadership in Nigeria have also done such a great job of destroying themselves that there's now an opportunity for us to intervene, right? So, and as a Nigerian musician that I heard his music recently, we call him Small Doctor. He says in Yoruba, I say, what is back penalty while throwing? You know, because soccer is very popular in Nigeria. And when you stand in front of the goalkeeper, you're supposed to play into the penalty because there's an infraction. And the player plays it on the other side, goes to throwing. You know that the player has overdone his playing skills. That's what has happened to the political elite in Nigeria. They've done such a great job of dribbling themselves and dribbling everybody that this is the best time to pounce on the opportunity to take Nigeria back from them. And that is why our organization or our movement is referred to as Take It Back. And again, when we started, people ridiculed us and said, what are you trying to take back? What's the meaning of take it back? But 2 weeks ago, here in California as well, Obama, former president of the US, led a campaign to take America back as well, because America itself is right for take it back, you know. But the most practical part of it, you know, I've gone through the spiritual, the philosophical. The most practical aspect of it, and the reality now, is that we must all chip in. And when I'm speaking right here in front of the podium to you, I'm not only talking to the people in the house, I'm also speaking to Nigerians who are watching us all over the world. And there are thousands and thousands of our people who are watching tonight. Probably by the time we are done tonight, there will be some 5,000 people who have watched our speech. And if you have a collection of the 5,000 people, anywhere, even in the world, that's a huge crowd, right? And especially when they are not paid to listen to you with rice, bread, kara, or one of those things that are politicians use to manipulate people. So the reality is that we need you, you know, as much as, well, I won't say we need you, I think we need ourselves. We need ourselves to bond together, we need ourselves to contribute whatever we can. We need ourselves to talk to our brothers and sisters at home. We need ourselves to also invite even sometimes non-Nigerians or those who are friends of Nigeria and say, look, you know, this is the time to bond together to save Nigeria. It's important because it's not only Nigeria that's been at this level, deep in a crossroads. South Africa used to be in that situation too, through apartheid. And at the point, everybody in the world left what they were doing and said, hey, wait a minute, we have to end apartheid in South Africa. In fact, most of the people that fought to end apartheid were not necessarily South Africans and they were not based in South Africa. But they hearkened to the cries of South Africans who were oppressed by a white minority government. In Nigeria, there is a black minority oppressive elite. Very, very wicked, very corrupt, very rapaciously greedy elite. They will take anything, they will steal anything, they will kill anything just to keep Nigeria the way it is today. You know, I'm sure a lot of you ask the question when you go to Nigeria, the most common question is, but our leaders go elsewhere. How come they can't see how to bring Nigeria back? I mean, create a country that is at least similar to what they have seen in other places. That's the most frequently asked question about Nigeria. But you know, what you should understand is that you have to have leaders first before they can be examples for anything good. The people we have in Nigeria who are running Nigeria, they're not leaders, they are rulers. You know, they create kingdoms, they create cabals. And if we go to Nigeria, the entire Nigerian echo chamber is made up of cabals in every sector. You know, there are traditional cabals, and they work with the political cabals. The political cabals work with the financial or economic cabals. The economic cabals work with the religious cabals. There's cabal everywhere. And everybody is in control of the Nigerian space in a way that they have only one agenda only, how to take whatever they can from Nigeria. You know, and it doesn't matter how bad the situation is, they will capitalize on it to take something every day. And they have also figured we Nigerians out. They understand that no matter how much we cry and shout, after a while, it will fizzle out. They have figured that out. So even when you are protesting, they tell themselves, give them 3 days. They will end their protest on their own. And the reason is because they've done everything they can to dispossess our people of even the ability to feel pain. You know, that thing you take for granted about being able to feel pain. Nigerians have been moved to that point where the way they feel pain is different from the way other people feel pain in the world. They used to say something when we were in the university. I mean, we used to say something that, you know, when people are pushed to the wall, they react, right? Even goats, when you push them to the wall, they'll bite you. In Nigeria, when they push us to the wall, Nigerians will be drilling the wall so that they can create more space for them. And what we are here saying is that we must put an end to the drill on the wall. Now that we've been pushed to the wall, we have to turn around and fight back. And fight back we must. And in doing so, and I will just summarily, because I'm supposed to speak like a politician now, this is something I hate to do very much, say that you know, we have a 10-point agenda that can make Nigeria a glorious place that you can all go back to whenever you have vacation. You know, if I ask any one of you here, where was the last time you went on vacation? How many people have been to a vacation in the last 1 year? Vacation, like, on a vacation, a lot of people. Is there anybody who has been to Nigeria on vacation just to go have vacation in Nigeria? Anybody? Anybody? Nobody. Nobody. Yeah, probably went to Jamaica, you know, you went to some other small countries that you can't even find their names on the world map. But nobody's going to Nigeria on vacation anytime soon, you know. As I usually joke, even when you take your children to Nigeria, you took them there just so that when they come back home, you can tell them, look, you know, I took you to Nigeria last year. If you don't behave yourself, we are going back this year. I'm not lying, you know. And they feel like that is, I'm not going back to Nigeria. If there's anything you want me to do, I'll do it for you. But we are not going back to Nigeria with you guys. No, let's go somewhere else. Anyways, that's not funny, but it's the reality. So we will talk about security, which is one of the plans for what we call Spicer Heat, which is a program. Nigeria is really insecure. We're probably one of the most insecure places on earth that is not at war. You get me, right? Nigeria is in the dark. I mean, practical darkness. There's no electricity in Nigeria. None. Almost zero. It is so bad that if people enjoy more than 2 hours of electricity in certain neighborhoods in Nigeria, they start asking questions. Why hasn't the electricity company switched off the electricity? What's happening? NEPA hasn't taken lights. I hope everything is okay. You know, Nigeria's got no infrastructure enough to support its population. There's infrastructural deficit, huge one for that matter. Nigeria is in need of nothing less than 200,000 kilometers of highway, rail lines, schools, hospitals, 17 million units of housing that needs to be built, and urgently too. Nigeria is guarding the problem of corruption. I wouldn't call it corruption because sometimes I think the most corrupt place in the world is actually the United States of America. In fact, the most corrupt street on earth is built in New York. It's called Wall Street. So sometimes I'm very careful not to say that Nigeria is, because they can steal in Wall Street the budget of the entire African continent within hours. But Nigerian politicians have got a problem of what I describe as primitive accumulation. That is a pack rat who is, you know, keeping things that they don't even need. So we have an economy that is in need of rebranding. You know, we have a need for a new political economy that is tailored and geared towards empowering the people of Nigeria, not an economy like I usually describe as an economy that is based on PowerPoint presentations. So Nigeria also, as a nation state, requires very urgently restructuring. Nigeria was set up as a federal system, but right now you cannot find in any government book what is happening in Nigeria in terms of its governmental structure or system. People just do what they like. Nigeria is in need of a public health system that is democratic and supportive of its population. Especially we need a country where women can go to hospital when they are pregnant and have support and care until they deliver their babies, have babies immunized, have people even be able to check on their blood pressure. Just a lot of people are walking around, you know, what I call walking dead people in Nigeria. We've seen this a lot. Nigeria is in need of education that can deliver a future for it that supports progress and prosperity. Nigeria agricultural sector needs a lot of modernization and technology that can make Nigeria be a place where you can grow food that can support its population. You know, I got a note here that my energy level is very low. Yes, it is not deliberate. You know, when you are battered the way I've been battered emotionally for much of 47 years of my life on earth, there's no way you can have energy all the time. I would admit to you today that for the first time, I'm depressed about Nigeria. And I get depressed not a lot of times, but I'm depressed about Nigeria because things are not good at things are not nice, and the people who are in charge of the place are not nice people. They are not good people, and regardless, we must fight them. And part of the reason I was also depressed is just watching my friend Clem stand up here. He was just shedding tears about Nigeria, and well, I don't handle emotional situations like that very well. But having said that, part of it is also that I'm not telling you anything new about Nigeria. You all know these things. Because when you leave here tonight, you're going to hear from home. You know how it is to get prayers from home. You know, Nigeria, when people need help from you, from home, they greet you with everything. Happy New Month. Happy New Day, Happy New Week, you know, and, you know, I didn't know that you have to greet people at the beginning of the month, you know, and they greet you good morning, and you are wondering, how do you know what time it is in America? And after that, you get a lot of prayers, they send you prayers, and if you don't send money, they start sending you proverbs, you know. So, I'm just going to say, thank you, everyone. I'm sorry that I haven't been able to impress you tonight a lot. I came here to speak through to you from my heart. You know, it's just the way it is, but it is doable. And again, I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for what you may decide to do for Nigeria. You are not under any obligation to support us, but you should be under some serious obligation to support the humanity that is based in Nigeria. And that humanity is in need of your help, it's in need of your support, it's in need of a lot of ginger, it's in need of a lot of resistance, and it's in need of, most importantly, deliverance. Thank you. Good evening.
Can I encourage you for the next president? AAC!
Take it back!
AAC!
Take it back!
Take it back!
Action!
Take it back!
Action!
Now, you have heard from this man. Thank you for that very short speech. You have just heard from a man who's an alumnus of the University of Lagos and Columbia University. You also heard from a man who's a lecturer of modern African history and post-colonial African history here in the U.S., in New York, City University of New York. So ladies and gentlemen, now is going to be the time for the Q&A. This is a town hall meeting. Now I need you to know that on that table is t-shirts. If you haven't got one, get one. It's $20, just a donation. You don't have to get one, you can get 5 and give to your friends. That's a way of giving us some donation to support this movement. Now we're going to take the Q&A. This microphone, I'm going to take it around, and you're going to ask your question. First, we're going to take 3 questions before he responds. Now I am going to ask you to be very, very concise with your question. And let's go straight to the question. As he listens, make it distinct so that we understand your question and he understands it. So that when he's responding, he will respond to your question as he fit. So now, if you hear somebody, please pay attention. If you hear somebody say one question, please don't repeat that same question. Don't try to reframe the question. So he's going to answer it one time. And one time only. So first we're going to take 3, and then we come back. Okay? Are we together? So his hands was, first you take the microphone, tell us your name, and tell us your question. You would ask 3 questions, and then Mr. Next President, you will hear 3 questions, and then you will respond. Yes. And sir, the reason why we are gathered is for donation proper, to support this movement. Please, as eloquent as you are, may you not turn this into a fertile ground to test our potentials in Queen's ground.
Hello, Mr. Sowore.
Yes, sir.
My name is Sowore. I saw you at Auckland yesterday, and I said I have to be here. God made me to be here. I'm just getting off from work, and I said I'll make it. So you are late. How do you say you are late? You are not late for a reason. Just straight to the point. When you are talking in Auckland, some guys from Nigeria were saying we don't have posters.
Yes.
We don't have billboards.
Yes.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to be here tonight. I'm going to send my money to my guys. If you have the guys in Lagos, I'm from Lagos.
Okay.
We need logistics.
Yes.
I talked to you one time, maybe you might see my text, and I told you that look, most of the people who are going to vote, they don't have money for data. But the passion we have now, they have it. Yes. People know the truth, they know the lies. So they don't need money. If somebody wants to sell their future, it's left to them. But showing what I want from you now is that please logistics on the floor. Where are we getting them? Communicate it with us. When we see how you are moving, anybody that is moving will come in and put in something there. But that guy said it out, the screenshot I can show it to you, we don't have posters, we don't have this. All these things you are telling us, we know. We all know. So let's move forward now. And please don't criticize these people. I don't want them to get you, please. This is where they are living. Just focus on your own campaign. Don't say, oh, go send them to jail. When I see you, I'm going to tell you. Leave them alone. When you get there, because you're going to leave. I don't want them to kill you, please. This is what's going on before we are gone. They are billionaires from Nigeria money. So if they see you have the ovation already. The movement is going, everybody's passionate about this. I called those who are the organizers here, nobody pick up the call. I thought this place is overflowed. I talked to him, I said, look, you did your job. You are the one that communicated to me on Facebook that you are coming to California. I begin to look for the information. I couldn't say, oh, they are organized. I said, you are not making the team. No. Veronica is here. You have the posters there? No. All African sport. This place should be overflown with Nigerians. This is the largest city in California. Yes. If anybody have anything to say, you can say. Thank you, sir. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that great concern that he is going to respond. Okay, next. One more after this.